I think there is a Malone reducing surgery, but you have
That's
to fly
funny.
to some third world country unless you want to pay $8 million.
It's like those people who get the surgeries to make themselves taller.
Get their
Imagine.
get your shin shattered into a million
Yeah,
pieces,
yeah,
and
Yeah, yeah.
they
yeah. But
court.
they have to do it like 5 times.
Yeah,
It's
they
like a
do it
slow
repeatedly. Do they
process.
have to do your femurs too?
I think so. Yeah, it's fucking nuts.
And then they got to do anything you want to match your new lengthened body. You need to have
Yeah,
shattered and
Yeah.
lengthened.
yeah. It's just insane. Yeah, imagine like, oh, now I'm 6 foot, but you have like 5'4" arms.
Yeah, exactly. Or
Like,
just
all
like
right.
you get the arms, you get that you're 6'6" now, and you have 5'4" hands. Like
Yeah.
can't even
Ah,
reach in your own pocket.
I'll
just a miserable
just
life.
move some of my cock into my legs. I'll be fine.
They're gonna have to shatter that too, buddy. Okay. Welcome to Beardcana, your favorite Lorcana podcast. Why? Because we got three beautiful bearded gentlemen for you to choose from. I'm your host, Sammy BTCG. Back up in this thing. With me, from now until always, is Hal Brady and Jake. Just Jake. You don't need no last name. Mind your damn business. Gentlemen, how are we doing this weekend?
Fine.
Pretty good.
I say weekend. It kind of feels like the weekend. It is a Tuesday, but we have LCQ action popping up right now. Like I just excuse myself for being a moron. Yeah, happy weekend on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
LCQs occur in 3 days, and myself, along with Jake, will be competing in said tournament. And Hal Brady will be at home running the card viewer, not for LCQs, because I'm pretty sure they don't have coverage. Right?
Nah. Yeah. No. Just the. I mean, they didn't tell me that I'm working on Friday, so just for the main event. Yeah.
Card viewing for the main event. So we're all three involved in this weekend, and we've all three been looking forward to it big time. Jake and I have been testing quite a bit with set six. It's been a fun set. There's been a lot of movement. I feel like week to week, just the small adjustments between which Amber Steel deck is most popular has had a big effect on the meta because that pushes out, like a green purple gets pushed out by a diggy hole, and that leaves room for red purple to come in, which does better against, there's a lot of a meta shift going on. But we're actually going to check in with Jake here, who's been doing the most testing and acquiring data and sending it to me anytime he wins at least 5 games in a row. He will send it to me.
Yeah. Here it is. Validated.
How much
So
data
I'm
is it?
curious. You have been sweating on the ladder.
Mhm.
Has the meta been represented? If you go look at ink decks, you're going to see 20% red purple, 20% red blue, 15% amber steel. Is that what you have been playing against, you feel, in those numbers on the ladder?
It's probably pretty close to that. I do think there's the website that shall not be named does
We'll talk about
allow
it.
for does allow for a lot of things because you have access to every card that you won't necessarily see in like the physical meta. You also have people who are more willing to just like try stuff and take a chance. That's why I try to eliminate decks from my data that's like, okay, this is an amber ruby princess deck. Like
Right.
that's not going to be reflected in the greater metagame, and I don't think that data should be accounted for. But yeah, largely I would say it is a ruby sapphire world, and we're all just living in it. And then ruby amethyst as always is just as present.
So, do you feel like that's the gap you're trying to shoot? Is how do I beat Ruby Sapphire and Ruby Amethyst?
I think so, yeah. I think those two decks are so like the LCQ, you have to win 5 games straight, and I think you have a really high chance of 4 of those games, maybe 3 to 4, being one of those two decks, just by the data that we've seen from other tournaments across the world in the last few weeks. Um, And then the other deck that you're most likely to see is probably an Emerald Amethyst or maybe an Amber Steel, be it Steel Song or the more likely Diggy Diggy Hole.
Right. So I think I'd have to agree with that. I have been spending more time playing paper tournaments. I've had three or four, three or four, 3 to 4 case tournaments, triple and quadruple case tournaments. The last quadruple case tournament I played Saturday in, I think, Redlands, California, had 93 players. So it turned out to be an 8 case tournament. They doubled the prize support. And I want to say, without exaggeration, there were 45 blue red players there. And so, yeah, definitely. And I showed up with Blurple. We will go into more of my lists later. And I do believe I'll be showing up with Blurple yet again to the LCQs. I did not show up Saturday ready to beat blue red, instead, trying to dodge it a little bit. I have found out the hard way. You can't do that in this format. Probably not a thing in Lorcana overall. I definitely already adapted the you must be able to beat red purple to bring your deck to a tournament. Otherwise, what are you doing? Because you're gonna play against it. I think we're in that world with blue red now, and so I've had to adjust the blurple list, try to find a way to beat it. But I think, yeah, going into Continentals weekend, blue red and red purple are the top 2 decks you need to have a plan against, and definitely blue red. I think more than all. I think that's all the meta chasers are. I think are leaning that way towards blue red.
So for the Continental's main event is still 2 game format, right? But the LCQs are best of 3.
Yeah.
That is correct. Yeah. So that is an interesting thing to think about, whether or not you want to build your deck or select a different deck for LCQ rather than main event. I don't know that I would personally let that change my decision too much. For me, it's not going to change it at all because Blurple's the only deck I'm currently like happy with, so it doesn't matter. But I going into LCQ, if that was best of 2, I feel like I'd be much less likely to play a deck like Blurple and play something more powerful and extreme like Steel Song or Blue Red that is more likely to sweep 2 games, because Blurple's just too medium to try to 2-0 everybody. I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I think Ruby Sapphire is like hands down the best like 3 game format deck. So if I was going to an LCQ, I would definitely do that. I've played blue red at a challenge, and it was kind of terrifying because I just feel like game 1 you're on the draw, you don't know who you're playing against. They just have like a super aggressive draw. You kept some wrong cards in the dark. You just get run over. Now half of your match is lost.
Right.
It's like I personally, as like a long-time Ruby Sapphire player, I hate playing that deck in 2 game format. I would rather play something like Ruby Amethyst where your game plan is pretty much exactly the same every time. You don't need to have specific answers for specific situations. Kind of same thing for like Steel Song or even some of these newer like Amber Steel aggressive decks. Like you don't care what you're playing against. You're doing the same thing every time. So it's a good like 2 game format deck where your opponent doesn't have enough time to adjust. But in 3 game for Ruby Sapphire, if you like roll me game 1 on the play, well, game 2 and 3, I'm gonna get to like mulligan appropriately and tune my game plan, and I feel a lot more comfortable. So I don't know. I would probably play a completely different deck for the LCQ, and if I happen to qualify that way, there's a good chance I change decks completely for the main event.
Yeah, I think I would do the same. I don't think I would play Ruby Sapphire in the main event. Um, because you have to have a deck that can like pretty consistently steal games on the draw, and I just don't think Ruby Sapphire is that deck into the greater metagame. Like Emerald Amethyst is just a bad time for you in general. Same thing for Ruby Amethyst. Like they go turn 1 Chernabog, you go Popsicle, they go Flynn, and you cry. Like
Yeah.
it's just a bad time. Um, but with the 3 game format, like you have a shot at stealing 1 of 2 games on the draw. Because with Ruby Sapphire, like if you mulligan correctly and your deck is built right, unless you just get unlucky, you're probably gonna win most games on the play. Especially with the current builds with Maui Half Shark, like you're able to leverage so much in that card alone and what it's able to do with a Pirate's Life or getting back brawls or even Beaver Barons and managing the board. Like there's so many times that someone resolves Maui Maui half sharp, and the board just freezes. Your opponent can't quest because now they're risking getting 2 for 1 or even worse. So I think that it's like clearly the best deck for the LCQ.
That I think I have to agree. It like in the sense of it's clearly the best deck like in the format to play in the LCQ. That being said, it's not going to be the best deck for everyone to play. Um, I have no reps with blue red prior to this set, and so coming into it, I was pretty much resigned to not play any blue red just because I thought it would take too long to catch up to my current knowledge base of playing with lots of purple decks and lots of green decks and green steel, blurple, green purple is really what I have been doing for the most part. And so I am from the perspective of yes, that's clearly the best deck. How do I beat that? And again, I don't have the best answer. So I want to come back to Jake and ask you. First question: it's clearly the best deck, blue red. Does that mean you are playing blue red for LCQ?
Probably not. The mirror
Probably
match is
not.
just a miserable experience. It's so bad. Like you're consigning yourself just to the universe and getting, a little lucky. Like there is skill and nuance in it, but it ultimately comes down to who draws more cards, which is who sees and sticks Hiram, and then who sees their 7 cost cards more and faster.
Right.
And like there's tech that you can play. I mean, you could be on like Mufasa or something, or playing Hades to help switch the matchup. But I think unless you start to get into like 10 cards different from the stock list, you're not really like meaningfully affecting the matchups. It's just an awful time. I would not want to be stuck in the mirror match, 2 to 3 of my LCQ matches, and just like hoping I'm on the play first.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And again, it's one of those things that I've learned already about red purple. It's just like I do not want to play red purple mirrors. And it's gonna you're gonna sit down and play against it 20% of the time. So yeah, I'm probably with you on that blue red. It doesn't seem like there's too much skill to be expressed in that mirror. It's who draws the better half of their deck, really, for the most part. Um, so with that, not playing blue red, what do you think is the best tool to beat blue red?
I think it's Emerald Amethyst, and maybe I'm a bad blue red player. I've played the deck a lot, but I just cannot get a win against that deck. Like there are so many board states where you just get got by Go-Go. Like, oh, I quested with my Hiram, and then they're like, cool, Fox at Go-Go. Like, all right, I
Yeah,
guess I just
I
eat that.
die.
Yeah, and if you don't have a way to interact there, they're probably just going to do it again,
Yeah,
and that's the game. I
no,
think
I
I
think
got
that's
Go-Go'd for
realistic.
10 like yesterday. I think it was a Go-Go for 10 over the course of a few turns. Had
Okay.
no option. I had no popsicle, nothing to like mitigate
Yeah,
this. I'm just like, all
yeah.
right.
I just like the presence. When the card was foiled, I'm just like, I'm already playing green purple, so I have insight to like cards I want in my deck, and they show this go go, and I'm like, oh my god, I get to take Sir Hiss out and bring in this thing that can kill people, and just like thinking about it, it's like, well, if I play a go and quest with it, are you gonna really play a Maui and hit this thing? Because if you do, you probably did. So I think
Yeah.
green purple. I think is going under the radar big time right now, and I think it's because it may be a double edged sword, if you will. EU has been more popular in EU than the US, and the recent switch in Amber Steel from Steel Song to Diggy Hole is really bad for EA. But I don't really think that many Amber Steel players are switching off of Steel Song into Diggy Hole. I don't think 100% of your Amber Steel opponents are gonna be on Diggy Hill, and so therefore, it's kind of a scare tactic that's kept EA out of the top slots of the meta when it's probably just still right there. It,
Yeah, for sure. I think you just have a hard time with steel decks in general, though.
yes,
Like Amethyst Steel, Steel Song, as prevalent as it may or may not be, Diggy Hole, Blue Steel, like all of those decks are just a bad time for
yeah,
you, especially with Calhoun now.
yeah. I never found Steel Song to be too much of a problem for Green Purple because uh, if the wheel is bad for us, we can take it away with Ursula, and if the wheel's good for us, we just let him do it. And it's really the shift towards more removal and more board presence from the Dwarves mine. I think that really punishes the EA. And yeah, you're right. The Calhoun hurts a lot of hurts a lot as well. And again, to me, that's just like you just have to shift your turn 1 and 2 a little bit to be able to beat that. You don't have to just concede the matchup. So we can get into deck lists because we do have one deck list to share. Mine. I want to go over real quick what I'm going to be playing. I'm pretty much locked for LCQ and thusly for the main event as well. I can't really see myself changing too many cards. I think I'm at 59 locked and one's kind of on the fence. And so I think we can get that in hand now. Since we're talking about meta ways to beat everything going on, we can actually talk about what I'm doing. So we've talked about what's the best deck, how to beat it, what's the second best deck, and none of this has covered Blurple at all because I think it is a rogue player going into this weekend, and I'm not one to really dig too far past the best deck for something that I like, but I think Blurple is intrinsically just as powerful as any of the other purple decks, and I like it, which I think matters a lot and is important, and it's works to my style. And I think I've found a build that I can confidently sit down against any opponent and try my best to get a 2 out of 3 victory. So it's pretty simple till we get towards the end. So I'll just brief through real quick. We've got 10 1-drops for Chernobog, 4 Diablo, 2 Magic Broom. We've got 3 Mim Snake, 4 Tipo, 4 Madam Mim Fox, 4 Merlin Crab, 4 Genie, 4 Merlin Goat, 2 Merlin Rabbit, 1 Bell Accomplished Mystic, 4 Elsa the Fifth Spirit, 2 Hades Infernal Schemer, 3 Elsa Spirit of Winter. Actions are 4 Sail the Azurite Sea and a single Finder's Keepers. We've got 4 Friends on the other side and 2 Let It Go in Songs, and then we're capping it off with the whole playset of McDuck Manor. And this is the latest ad that we're back on to try to beat Blue Red, along with this Finders Keepers. And the 59th card that I mentioned earlier that is still kind of up in there is this 3rd Elsa Spirit of Winter or a singleton Mufasa Ruler of Pride Rock. I'm just trying to visualize all the spots in every matchup and literally is there are there scenarios where I want Mufasa that are 33% of the time or more? It's like literally it's 1 out of 3. Do I want it to be this Mufasa or this Elsa? The Elsa's more reliable, so I'm pretty sure it's going to be that. But other than that, it's pretty basic Blurple. I really just like the value grinding. No one is targeting me, and so I get to do what my game plan is pretty much left alone, which is, just ramping into powerful 4-drops on turn 3, following up with an Elsa to take over the board. And then once you get ahead on board with this deck, it's really hard to crawl back, simply because I have access to all the best tempo plays, be it your Fox, Crab, Elsas, Hades, and I get to do it faster because I'm a Sail the Sea and Tipo deck. So that's what I'm bringing, and we'll have link to that if you want to copy it down there. Jake, you have not landed on a 60 yet, have you?
No.
You're waffling.
I'm bringing like 5 decks.
5 decks. We're bringing the whole collection with us. All right.
Yeah. It's a game time decision always, man.
I like it. Hey, someone's got to do it.
Yeah.
For me, I would be way more apt to try some more decks and try really hard to test, but I feel like I've played enough of this format to see that everything is pretty medium. I think Blue Red is obviously the best deck and most powerful deck, and that's what you're trying to beat. And then besides that, okay, everything's kind of whatever. And I don't feel that it's that Blue Red is so powerful that picking anything else is a mistake, because it is a beatable deck. Yeah. If you want to beat it, you can.
Can you share us your list?
Yeah. You can comment on that. I showed the viewers It's hard to pop windows in and out here. We are amateurs. We're working on it over here.
Or you just put it in Discord even.
Yeah, I'm gonna copy paste it in the Discord.
We don't have that Podcana prowess yet.
Yeah, we're not Podcana or Club Canna yet, but what we can do is mention Lorcanito. I'm not scared of that. We use Lorcanito to test and all
never
that.
heard of that. No. Well, I want to do this. As somebody is like, I've, through the holidays and I recently moved, pretending I was preparing, kind of starting from scratch to, if I was going to go play in an LCQ. First thing I'm going to do is hit up my buddies. Here's two of them. We're talking about the metagame. I like playing offbeat, like rogue type decks, especially like I love blue red, but I also agree I hate the mirror match. And in best of three, I would rather just try to beat them. I know in previous formats, like aggro decks potentially could do that, and you guys said also Ruby Amethyst would potentially be like one of the other most popular decks. And from my end of piloting aggro decks, could usually beat both of those. But if we're talking about Blurple right now, now that I can see your list, kind of just walk through your game plan for the Ruby Sapphire deck for the Blurple deck.
All right, let me bring it back up while I talk about it so everybody else can see it. Wing this bad boy over here in front of our beautiful bearded faces. Okay, so Saturday I played a 7-round, what ended up being an 8-case tournament. Like I said, and half the meta is blue-red. I did not have these 4 McDuck Manors. Instead, what I had was a single McDuck Manor, a single Queen's Castle, and a single library. Basically, I wanted like 3 total locations, and I thought they all had their spots, and I never really wanted 2 because, library's really good in other purple decks. Castle's a card where if you could just find a spot where you can put it down and your opponent cannot answer it for a turn, it can just win the game on the spot. So I wanted access to that, and then I also wanted access to scary McDuck Manor plays against blue-red where they wouldn't be able to get it off the table for a turn. And then between those 3, I'd also have access to, a double location drop on 8 ink if you want to. But the base of this Blurple deck, before we even get to like the blue-red matchup, is that the mulligan is the most important part, but it's the most simple part. You are hard mulling for your 2-cost blue ramp cards every game, every matchup period. Your deck, that is like the only inflection point of this deck that's super important is, did I ramp on 2? Other decks care about all kinds of mark. Did I hit this mark? Did I have Daisy on 1 into this, into that? This deck, by far the most important thing is, did I ramp on 2? And so in the opener, if I do not have a Tipo or Sail the Sea, I will mulligan every card that is not Chernobog's followers. The Chernobog you can still play on 1 and sack it on 2 to still try to find that one, unlike Diablo or Broom. And so if I don't have those, I'm hard mulling 6 or 7 cards for them every time. And it's cool because if you get that, your deck is phenomenal, and it's not that hard to get because we're talking about 8 cards and we're willing to hard mull for it. And then the way that X built is, you get one of those, you're highly likely to see a 1-drop because there's 10 of them, or a 4-drop because there's 15 of them, and that sets up the rest of your hand because I just want to play a 1-drop, ramp on 2, and then start dropping 4s right after that. And so really, once we get into the game plan section of, okay, this matchup, this matchup, this matchup, we're going to be doing mulligan decisions assuming you have what you want in your hand. We're assuming I have a Tipo or a Sail, otherwise you're hard mulling 6 or 7 cards for that period all the time. So if we have our Tipo, we definitely are looking for the Manor, McDuck Manor on 4 ink, so our turn 3. And I have found that on the play, that is going to be enough to offset a lot of what they're doing to where I can actually get to the late game scenarios where I have enough lore where I'm threatening to take over the game instead of they can kind of ignore me, play their Tamatos to the lucky dime, and I just can't catch up because I don't have the speed. So McDuck Manor on 3 is what you want. Failing that, Genie's the next best because he's questing for 2. And then another thing I really like to set up against blue, and something I've been doing more frequently all around, and like something I'm figured I should be aiming to do, is instead of just naturally going for the sail the sea on 2 always, is play the Tipo, try to find a Tipo line on 2, play my 4-drop on turn 3, and then the next turn sail into a 4-drop again. And that gets you into the double ramp, and that just gets you into your top end fast enough that the turn 1 and 2 where we give up powerful plays and we give up board presence, we are able to catch that back up in time. And so that's something, especially in the blue-red matchup, that's huge, where you can drop a location on curve, and then if they have to wait a turn to Maui, if you've double ramped, then you get to answer the Maui back with a Hades, and that can be like backbreaking because they'll need the 2 hits off the Maui to get Ya McDuck Manor off the table. And then we also went up to a second Let It Go, and basically a 5th copy of a large uninkable, stealing from the 3rd rabbit, because I just felt like we needed more power in those late games. And so one thing that I was contemplating, where I really like where I'm at, is something like a 3rd Hades along with the 3rd Elsa would be really nice. But the Finders Keepers has been very impressive in just getting to the late game Hades and getting to, even more inkable cards, so that I don't need to ink some valuable things later. So I've been really impressed with this full action based card draw set that I have with the 4 friends on the other side and the extra Finders Keepers. And the Mufasa is that the extra piece that I have been playing against the blue red that's been very powerful, and where I'm like, oh man, this Mufasa has been better than Elsa here. But do I really feel I can afford this slot, knowing that almost every other matchup I'm going to want the Elsa 9 times out of 10?
So that was I have like a hypothetical question, I guess, and that would probably be a piece of it. If hypothetically, if you were to show up at this LCQ and you knew for a fact you were going to play against Ruby Sapphire all 5 straight rounds, would you make any changes to the deck, like the Mufasa?
Yeah.
Is there anything else you would do?
Yeah, I mean, if I knew for sure I was going to play against blue red all 5 rounds, I would play probably like up to 12 locations. And I've done that in Blurple before, and it was good. And I just want to say it's a thing that can be good in Blurple, and it's kind of meta dependent. I'll scroll back over the list again. If you take something like, Friends is a great card advantage, but if this is 4 castles here, and the Finders plus I don't know what else we could cut at this point, but if we got up to like 10 locate 4 castle, 4 McDuck Manor, I think they would struggle to beat that on with frequency.
Would in that scenario, would you cut all 3 of the big Elsas?
No, I actually think Elsa up to 3 Elsa is where I'm leaning anyway, aside from the, do I want this 3rd Mufasa, or do I want 5 big uninkables? I'm leaning towards 3 Elsa, because that card is backbreaking, it's game winning, it's even better in multiples. And it to me, it's one of the things that actually draws me towards Blurple is the big Elsa, because, red, purple, big Sisu's just better. And so she doesn't have a home anywhere else, but she's so good and nearly impossible to play around. And just game. One of the things that, she turns the tide of a game big time. So,
I mean, being able to shift her on turn 5 is pretty terrifying. So
yeah, we have like the full shift line. Yeah, we can shift her turn 5, I've done that. I shift turn 5, ice your board. Hit. Challenge one of them and kill it. Next turn, challenge the other thing and kill it. Fox, pick them both back up. Like, the more I play Blurple, the more I get to do all these value Snake and Fox plays, and the more I'm amazed by just like Snake and Fox by themselves is a whole deck. Like, especially when I have all this extra ink of just like, oh, I have this turn 8 where I could play an Elsa and a Fox and do all this stuff. Where it's like, or I could just challenge with my Snake, and then Fox, and challenge with that, and then Snake it, and then like kill 2 of your things for basically free. It's like, oh man, okay, yeah, this deck is very powerful, and you you just have to like rewire your brain from. I feel like from each purple deck you go from, like red purple, you're used to having free wins off your Flynn, and then your B prep reset button, and you go to Blurple and you don't have either one of those things, but you have. Oh, okay. Well, I'm on the play against another purple deck, and I played turn 3 Genie, and you're not going to play your Genie for 2 turns, and then I played a turn 4 Genie. Oh, okay. Well, I see the advantage I have here and how I'm going to push that.
Yeah, I think a big key thing with people like first coming over and trying Blurple in the first place, especially if they're like a Ruby Amethyst player, or any other deck, is like it's a very powerful deck, but it's like step by step. Like you have to pay attention to the board like very consciously because like you cannot catch up if you get behind. Like you necessarily there's like boards like you just can't catch up. So like you have to like control the board with the tools that you have. You don't have be prepared and all that type of thing. So like if there's like a turn where you can machine gun down 3 guys for free, comboing like Fox and Snake, you probably should do that because you don't have another way to like do that action.
Right. And it's a deck where, yeah, I feel that it's kind of like the most boiled down deck I've ever played in terms. It's like, what is this deck about? It's about tempo and card advantage. It's like,
Yeah.
well, what is it? Okay, well, that's
That's
kind
it.
of like most decks I've heard of. It's like, but that's all I do. And
That's
so,
it.
yeah, and it's like, in my experience, on average, that's been great because, oh, if we're both playing Genie, well, if I played mine a turn earlier, that's phenomenal. But yeah, there's no get out of jail free cards, and there's no overpowered cards that are going to win games for you. And, that's been my experience. Like, you make one mistake with the deck, you're dead. You don't get, like, you need all your crab interactions and your Chernobog. Like, every last one of those cards is huge. And,
Yeah.
but I feel, to the same degree, that makes it hard to play against. Because if you give me any of those things for free, it's going to be real bad for you.
Yeah, no library or castle is like without playing a game of this version of your deck is a little crazy to me because I know when we were testing it, like kind of like spoiler season of set 6 before the set even came out, we were really high on like getting Genie into play on like turn 3, and it was just like how many insane 4 drops can we put into play on
Right.
turn 3, and like library and like castle or I mean I know library's only 3,
Yeah.
but we're like a big part of that. But I mean with how you've like set up your action suite, Manor's got the best stats, and if you don't need the extra card draw because you're playing the finders and the friends, and you've got Rabbit and Genie, if you're just never running out of cards anyway, then yeah, I mean just play the bigger statted
Yeah.
McDuck
I'd
Manor.
say,
Yeah.
go ahead, Jake.
I was just gonna say that. I mean, that's really what it is. Like the 2 extra willpower on mana really makes a difference, especially when looking at like I could challenge it with a Maui and a Hiram. I mean, that eats a castle. Maui plus Vitalisphere eats a library, but you have to put all of that together to get through a manor, or waste like Vitalisphere and Maui Half Shark to eat a manor. I
Yeah.
think that's just what it is. It's just the nickel and diming of like a little bit here, a little bit there.
Yeah, I would say of the three, power level the weakest because it doesn't have any card advantage attached to it. Like, if you want, I just don't think you could argue power level wise. But what it is best at is getting me lore, and what I need it for is that blue red matchup and to be a lore threat. And so it really is in this list. The 4 locations really are a meta pick, and I'm really am using my flex slots to try to attack that blue red matchup. Because yeah, I love to have library in a deck with these purple 1 drops. Just getting multiple cards out of them, it is phenomenal. But all my purple matchups are fine.
Yeah,
Most of the matchups where I would want the other ones, they're fine. And what I really need is the McDuck Slammer against blue red. And then like another thing I think people, with again, Blurple's distilled card advantage and tempo is that like you cannot beat Blurple on both of those. You just can't do it. Because that's all I have is tempo and card advantage, so it's impossible. And so as the opponent, you have to pick one, and typically it's gonna have to be, for non-blue red decks, it's tempo. Oh, okay, well I can't beat Big Elsa's game, boom, boom, boom. So I need to close the game out fast. McDuck Manor is the best one at flipping that dynamic too, of like, oh, I took your threat off the board, and now I want to try to take over so that you have to challenge my stuff and pay attention to me instead of you trying to win. McDuck Manor does that the best too, because again, it just takes, that 2 extra willpower represents a whole other challenger that needs to hit it that's gonna cost 3+ ink from most decks. Yeah, it is a very specific slot this time.
Hey, we're recording, right?
Yeah, I'm doing it on my thing, not on the website.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, how long we been going?
Yeah.
0 minutes?
0 minutes. God. No, 35 minutes.
Oh, okay, cool. No,
Yeah, we're
worries.
good. No, I did that so I could swap between the browsers and still be on.
Okay.
And yeah, just that because I didn't know how this works, so I was like, let's lock it in.
Yeah, as long as our faces and sound are on, then we're good.
So we talked about Blurple. Jake, now is your turn that you've got to talk Al Brady into a deck.
Sure.
You got to sell him on something. If you have a list, you could send it to me. Is there anything you want to proselytize? I know you have been Steel Fossa stomping.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of everything, just trying stuff, just to see, like, is this deck secretly broken? Like, Emerald, Sapphire, Control, like, just, is this
Into
deck
my
actually
will.
It's nuts. It's the best deck in the game. It's also the hardest deck in the game.
Okay.
And the worst deck.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I do have that list. We can pull it up and make fun of you, probably.
Does
It's
it
pretty
have
cool.
Does it have airfoil in it? Because I will be
No, it's not my list. I'm definitely not creative enough to build something like that, but I have watched people on the ladder just crush with it. Like
I will
games
play
that
any airfoil deck. So if we can get
games where they're
airfoil,
down to like 17 lore to 0 and they come back and win and it doesn't look like it's close. Now I've been playing a lot of Steel Fossa mainly. I think it's really well positioned.
I'm going to
It's
pull your
mostly
lists
just
up
Luna.
now so you can talk about it.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's basically just Luna's deck. My biggest takeaway is I want it to be a little bit better against blue red, and I cut the Gontus for blue, and Gontu's really good against blue red in theory, um, because of the 4 strength is just like a hard break point for them. But I found a lot of games, even with Gontu, I would lose. I was like at 18 lore, 19 lore, and I just couldn't stabilize. Like after they B prepped, saying a B prep, and then played something big, I just couldn't cross that threshold before they would close out the game. And so I went to blue, and I'm rocking like an 82.3% win rate with the deck.
Holy.
Um, you just beat everything that's amethyst. And steel, really. Like the deck's just really, really solid. You have a ton of interaction. All of your plays are like really tempo positive because basically everything quests for 2 or threatens 2 lore in the case of blue. You're able to protect it. You can do a lot of cool plays with Rapunzel and Doc. Yeah, I really, really like this deck. Like if the LCQ was tomorrow, it's the deck I would play.
I mean, what's gonna change in like 4 days?
You never know, man. It's always a game time decision. I may play Emerald Amethyst. I think that deck is favored more so into Ruby Sapphire. I think the Steel Fossa deck, your games are just really close. Like you're really reliant on Daisy, especially like obviously being on the play strong, but you really need Daisy in that matchup, and then also like chaining Blues and Mufasas and just kind of getting a little lucky there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at. It's probably one of those 2 decks is what I would play in the LCQ. I think Steel Fossa is generally better into the meta as a whole. I think you're close to favored into basically everything else besides Ruby Sapphire, and I believe uh, the progenitor of this deck, Ruben from the Charlie's 10K a couple weeks ago, said the same thing, that he felt like this deck was good into everything except Ruby Sapphire, and like you just lose a few points of equity into that matchup.
Looking at this list, I'm curious if, since we have the blue bodyguard now, is if how necessary these chin pose are. I'd be looking to turn those into some gun twos myself. Can
Yeah,
I
you
borrow
can.
all these cards and audible to this deck? Because it looks
Yeah.
much better than mine.
The thing about Shinpo and Pluto is because of Dock, they kind of occupy a different point on the curve.
Yeah.
So like Shinpo being a 4-drop is kind of how you have to think about it. So even if you're like
Mm,
on the draw against Ruby decks, it then kind of checks a Maui, assuming like they don't brawl your Dock, which they probably won't because they probably have already brawled like a Daisy or something. So then you get that huge tempo gain of like, here's a bodyguard you cannot get through without giving me 2 characters. And if they like send a Maui
I
into it, then your
see.
Calhoun eats the Maui, and then you got 2 lore. Like
So he's
it
mostly
kind of
there as your
changes the
best
whole scene.
play after Doc, really.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Or doing like a turn 4 Big Cindy, like shifting Big Cindy turn 4 with Doc is huge. That wins most games.
For sure. But I'm just trying to figure out why would you play these Chinpos over Gontus? I mean, I do like that
It's
play of,
that.
yeah, if you, when you quest with
Yeah,
the Doc and then just
yeah,
play a good old Chinpo to
yeah, for
protect
Yeah.
sure.
it.
The biggest thing with Gantu, in my experience, has been he doesn't get to quest a lot. Like when you do play him, he usually just gets Elsid or
Hmm.
Ice Block
Right.
Medusa, whatever.
I was just curious if
Um,
we're talking a lot about this blue-red meta and like small
mhm,
changes. And I look at that deck and I'm like, oh man, 3 Chinpo there. But it's not bad
yeah,
against the Maui, but it seems like
right.
Gantu would be better, and Gantu certainly got to be better against Ruby M, I would think, right? Or do you think he's just gonna hit Elsa there most time?
Yeah, yeah. I think I would in that matchup. I would also rather have Chinpo because of Maui and Elsa crashing in and just disrupting your entire board.
Yeah,
Because your early game's super fragile. You're just trying to quest out and be
yeah.
aggressive
Well,
with
that's
some
just why I
easy
love the
daisies.
Baloo so much right now. It just that one turn
Hmm.
reprieve plus lore is just like it's lights out so many of the times.
Yeah.
And so I'd be like, oh, instead of having this Chinpo line, I now have the 4 Baloos, and so I could set up like double drop on that turn. Play
Yeah,
Baloo and a
it's really
Piglet.
punishing too off the Mufasa. I
Yeah,
know
for sure.
Ruben had said that he thought Mufasa was the worst card in the deck, and I get it, especially with this many actions. I think you could make a concession for Lilo Escape Artist instead of Mufasa, just to help post be prepared. Um, but the thing is, like Mufasa's going to hit most of the time, and if you put them in a spot where they're like, okay, I have to be prepared, they be prep, and now you have something that quests for 2 in play, like
Yeah,
you're edging to the point where they can't actually stop you from winning the
right.
game because of Baloo. Like you can just play Baloo
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
and kill him with a Zeus or something, and that's game most of the time.
Yes. No, I like Mufasa. I mean, it could be the worst card in the deck, and it's still good though. I don't think. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't like replacing it with Lilos or anything else that's small. I think having things you can play into prep and post, but like just it's army and it can type of card. I think is very good. Very good. I think it's one of the more powerful cards you can get on an inkable card, really.
yeah.
All right, how Brady? Which deck looks better to you, sir? We're trying to talk you into this LCQ. Are you an Amber
I'm
Steel guy at all? Have you ever done any Amber Stealings?
I'm a big fan of non-Steel Song Amber Steel decks.
Oh, okay,
So,
okay.
um,
He don't
well,
like Wheel. He
I
wants
think
to keep his normal hand.
no. I didn't say that. I
Oh,
just I like Wheel when there's like a Jafar behind it or
okay.
something. That's when I like Wheel. But yeah, I think like a couple set champs ago, I played like it was like an Amber Steel Tiana deck that was I had a lot of fun playing that, and it was just like a ace in the hole against the Steel Song
Hmm.
matchups, like a bunch of like resist guys and that sort of thing. But no, I mean, yeah, this list looks sweet. If I like in the dark didn't have a lot of time to test, um, I would be more apt to play something like this because it looks a lot of like something like decks I've played before. Whereas like Blurple, I feel like I would need to know the entire metagame and really get the reps in and know what the game plan is. Here, not to say like this deck's like easy to pilot, but it's more just like I would be more comfortable playing. Just the game plan is like slam guys and quests,
No, it's
and
super easy.
like put yeah, that's
Yeah,
fair. I was like
yeah,
put guys into playing quests. I do like the idea of like Doc being have several like cheaper ways to like protect him with like the big bodyguard guys. So, like if he goes unchecked for like 2 turns, it's pretty devastating. And then they're like fumbling over themselves to like get this big bodyguard out of play. And if they don't do it officially, then like Rapunzel just comes in for max value, and now it's like it just gets even worse for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, if with no testing, if I wanted to play something outside of the main meta, this deck looks really sweet, honestly.
Yeah. And to let you know, it's not really outside the main meta right now. The Amber Steel
Oh, that's
has
fair.
kind of been like Steel Song, Diggy Hole I think is supposed to be more of the meta now, but then this is in the mix with the three.
This is in there
So
now.
yeah.
I've seen like the Candio list and like
Right.
like the Dwarven Mine
Yeah, so
stuff.
this list also top aided that same tournament. And also Steel Song did as well. And then within Steel Song, we have two versions running around. We have your Daisy Duck version, and then we have a Simba Shift Line version that's playing Lilo Escape Artist. So that one's like a little bit longer game, beefier stuff because it has the multiple shift lines and then the Lilos. Coming back about your Discord. Okay, Jake. Spicers. You love to send me spicy decks that could potentially be the next best thing. Here's one you sent me today that I'm like, man, I could totally pick this up and jam it in LCQ. We have the green steel deck. I have sent it into our chat. Green Machine, set 6. So we're like big green steel with what is this beast
Wait.
called?
Did you put it in the Discord chat?
Yeah, let me.
Oh, you put it in this chat.
I'll reach it. I think it's above the Amber Steel.
Oh, here we
Yeah, it's
go.
in the Discord or the Discord chat.
In the Discard pile.
And I'm showing it to our viewers. I will say three
Ooh,
morph.
baby.
3 morph is criminal in this deck when you have this many shift line. Just play the 4th morph.
Yeah. What are
Be
you
responsible. Play 4 morph. You could probably cut the Robin Hood for it if you want to. I love Beast Relentless so much. I want to play Beast Relentless so badly. So I would easily jam this, but not spicy enough for me.
It's pretty wild. I was watching a good friend of mine play this deck earlier. So this list came from Wochuk, and the things you can do with Beast Relentless and like do it again is pretty crazy. Like sing, grab your sword, ready him, sing a whole new world, find another piece of damage, challenge something, ready him, sing a whole new world. I mean, you can go
Oh
absolutely
man,
off.
Beast
I
Relentless
watched
does just
him
sing Zeus's for
sing
free,
three
huh?
whole new worlds against his. Yeah,
doing? Yeah.
it's crazy.
I
I
like
watched
it.
him mill out a red-blue player with 3 whole new worlds because the guy. I mean, in red-blue you just draw so many cards, and you're
Yeah.
just like, all right, cool, die. Like, enjoy having nothing left. It's really cool. There are probably a few things I would change about this list, and that might just be more like my own play style. I would probably play 4 morph. I'd also be tempted to play something like Mosquito Bite, but that might just be too cute into the beast stuff. But a couple of little things just for my own play style, I probably want to modify.
Your own pleasure. Yeah, I think it's pretty heavy on the uninkables, so I would get to trimming on those immediately, as I always do. And then from there, I would just be like, is this supposed to be really a Prince John Sudden Chill deck? Probably not. I do kind of like the bigger stuff. It does kind of lead me to want some hot Clarabelle action, and then I feel like there's probably some room for we don't talk about Bruno in here somewhere. Just such a powerful card you needed against a lot of the red decks.
I guess they're just like maximizing all the actions that deal damage for the beast, but
Yeah,
sometimes
I think
you don't
that they're just trying to exert their beast as many times per turn, which is fair. I can relate. But yeah, that makes me go, man, dude, Beast Relentless plus Zeus, like I want that in my deck.
Hypnotic Deduction gets to set up draws too, which is really powerful.
Do some
there's ever
brainstorm.
a
Oh
deck
yeah,
that
yeah.
gets
You can
both
multiple
forwards,
set up multiple whole new worlds is good.
Or like if you have 2 whole new worlds.
Yeah, that's
stuck
what I'm
in your
saying. Yeah.
hand. Yeah,
Yeah.
really good.
Broke it. Can you send me the blue green deck on Discord so we can look at another terrible deck that's amazing that I want to audible to because my Blurple deck's so medium?
Yeah, Please hold.
Yas. Yeah, I'm going into LCQ weekend like, man, I'm gonna have to play perfect and get lucky and have good matchups. So
And you're
I feel
probably
like
just gonna like
it's
lose
gonna
round
what?
one to like a
Yeah.
99-mile Dalmatians deck or something.
There is a dude running around with it, man, with the matching sleeves. He's fully invested. So
Nice.
That's the thing that's really rough is like at the end of the day, we're subject to so much variance here. Like you could have the best deck, be the best player, and just get unlucky round one, and that's it. It's just such a crazy tournament to have to win 5 straight. And also, and I kind of get it. Like EU, yes, they did get 2 LCQs, but we also get a month extra time for
yeah,
like
and all that
preparation.
data is crazy.
Yeah, yeah. So I get that.
This
Okay,
deck looks
so we got the
Looks
sec. Jake, you're
crazy.
gonna have to walk us through the play patterns because I don't even know what we're looking at here. You've been watching. Is this Sam Rowell you've been watching crush with the deck?
No, but this list is almost card for card.
Okay, okay.
That one. There's a couple of changes, like Let It Goes. Yeah, this deck is just so wild. Like
What
King
is this King
Candy's whole
Candy
purpose,
one? You
it's
talk to me.
just there to contest Flynn. It's just
Okay.
there to contest Flynn and like Daisy.
Okay, it does do that.
Um, yeah, so this deck is the whole idea is to like turbo ramp up to 4, and then your deck really opens up. You have Scrooge to be this aggressive kind of mid-rangey card. Grandma Tala is always to filter through your deck, but you really want to establish one of those two. The following turn, play Muses and ideally sing How Far I'll Go. Muses is likely going to be able to bounce something your opponent has in this metagame, be it a Hiram, a Daisy, whatever. And then you ramp up, and then you start dropping like Genies, John Silvers, Gothels to bounce stuff back to your opponent's hand, and eventually you want to hit them with a Bend of My Will. I was playing against you, Sam, with this list, and you can get to a point where you're like, sing You're Welcome, sing Mother's Knows Best, play Bend of My Will, and the game is usually lights out. Like, You're Welcome into Bend of My Will, unbeatable. 100%.
unbeatable.
Unbeatable. Unbeatable.
I mean,
It's so good. The problem is Merlin Goat exists, and your deck's really bad at dealing with Merlin Goat. But
that's
otherwise, it's
not a
just
great place to
insane.
be. We
Yeah,
just need
you need to
some.
use
We just
Clarabelle.
need some Let It Goes then.
Yeah, yeah, I'd
Let
play
it
Let It Goes for
go,
sure. Clarabelle is
or
great the turn before the Bend of My Will. So like you
yeah,
bounce stuff, but you
fill it
don't,
on up. Pow.
use everything just yet. Draw up
All
a
right.
bunch,
Yeah.
bounce
So
everything back to their hand. Bend of
from
My
my
Will again.
perspective, this is the kind of deck that I will pick up and play on ladder and win one game with, and just like, all right, sleeve it up. I'm all
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
We're bringing it to Continentals. I'm
Yeah,
not gonna play another game with it. I'm not gonna change the card. I'm not even gonna think about it. I'm just
this
gonna
deck's
pull
really
up
good.
with the bah. I am
This deck
literally
is
gonna play
really
this
good in
deck
a Ruby
immediately when
Sapphire
we hang
too.
up because it looks. I want to bend the wills.
I love
Yeah,
the bend to my will Clarabelle
Oh yeah,
combo.
my genie
yeah.
got bent to my backpack's will. So
Oh
if
boy.
anybody has extra genie they can bring to Continentals, that would be greatly appreciated. He somehow missed the deck box and just went straight in the backpack.
The cool thing about the Clarabelle Bend to My Will is like Clarabelle's the turn before
Yeah.
because then you bounce everything, draw a bunch of cards, and then it's lights out. And even if you're not drawing up the Clarabelle, she's still just this big dumb threat that closes out the game.
Yeah, and it get
Yeah,
like it's a constant threat, and it's just yeah, like I'm gonna dump my hand every turn, and you have to play all your cards every turn that are you.
yeah. It's really good against Ruby Sapphire too.
That was
It's
my question.
yeah, it's again, I would tweak some cards in the list personally, just again maybe for my playstyle. But I think it's pretty heavily favored in Ruby Sapphire because you have so many ways of interacting with their top end, and it takes them a while to really empty their hand, especially since they're not playing
Yeah.
Fishbone Quill anymore, and you just rip it all apart.
Yes. That. So my question, I was gonna mimic Hal earlier. He asked, with the Blurple deck, if you knew you were gonna play against Red Blue repeatedly, what would you change? If you knew you were gonna play against Red Blue 5 times, is this what you would play?
Ooh, that's a good question. Probably not, because I think the deck's
Just
really hard
EA,
to pilot. Yeah, I'd probably
EA
just play Armor
Sports.
Manifest. This deck is really hard to play, especially piloting well. Like every turn is so difficult and what you're inking because everything is a part of this big Rube Goldberg machine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's definitely long-term planning. It's not, Blurple is just like, for the most part, what is the most efficient play I can make this? And this, you're trying to alley-oop
Yeah.
things long-term. So yeah, shift Clarabelle, sing this and that. Next turn, sing this, discard your hands. Like, okay, well, you have to, can't just be inking all the kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Does it just get raffle stomped by a turn 1 Cinderella, turn 2 Calhoun, or...
Now, I played this earlier, and I 2-0'd a guy on the draw both times, who was playing Amber Steel aggro. He was playing D-hole, and Muses just does so much work there.
Yeah, I was gonna say you do have 4 muses, and then like, dude, John Silver is a house against
House.
any character-based deck. That's trying to quest with
Yeah.
mediumly sized things. He just comes in and shuts the whole show down.
Well, especially because you can do like quest with John Silver, play Mother's Knows Best on John Silver, activate Muses, bounce something back to their hand, replay him, give something else reckless, and it's just ripping their board apart. Now they have to lose 2 things by challenging into like your Scrooge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
I do wish we could fit a bibbity bobbity boo in here.
Just do it. Just put it in there.
I do like to get repeated triggers.
Play 70 cards. It's all good.
Yeah. Okay, relax. I could see. Okay, one thing I'm leaning on towards in Blurple, and here I get to throw this to the peanut gallery now, and the comment section can also let me know. Also, I talked earlier about how hard I mulligan for the 2 ramp. Can I play a single 1 jump? Like another 1 jump on top of my 8 rampers? Because like I hard mull, like you have to have the ramp on 2.
Yeah, I might be crazy here, but I think 1 jump isn't as dead as some people want to make it out to be. Because the thing with Sail is like it comes with a really severe deck building restriction that 1 jump doesn't inherently come with because of your uninkable count. And so I think something like 1 jump could totally be viable in this deck, especially since it's a song for Muses.
Yeah, and just like all, yeah, you have Sail Tipo on this list, and you would, they have the extra value of the muses too. Yeah, in Blurple, it's like, oh, I could, I maybe have 1 more spot for an uninkable, but it probably should be like a rabbit, maybe. It's like, oh, maybe if that uninkable is a 1 jump, it would actually be sick. But still, the Azurite Sea is so good that doing anything other than that on turn 2 is just the worst.
I'm a big fan.
Big old fan. Okay, so any last thoughts before LCQ action? We're all ready to beat blue-red. What else do we need it? Red-purple's still there. Nothing crazy. That's the thing about set 6 meta at this point. It just feels like, we're at a medium point where you just like try to know your deck really well and build it to be, what you think everybody else is going to show up and, try to play your best.
I have a comment or a thing I noticed. So I'm looking at No I'm Not's Ruby Amethyst list from the SCG 1K from this last weekend. Is it normal for Ruby Amethyst to just not play any locations at all now?
Yeah, Queen's Castle has fallen out of favor quite a bit, yeah.
And that just became Genie, I assume, is what it is.
Yeah, for the most part. Are there any... I didn't see this list. Are there finders?
No.
Is there...
Yeah,
let's take a look. I can... click. I was like, who can get there faster?
It's the thing with locations is
take a look at
the beginning of this format. They were either the best thing you could be doing or the worst thing.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt.
And it's because no one was playing crabs at the time because they were just like, well, no one else is playing locations. So then all of a sudden locations became good. But everyone's like, I'm on to you. And now they're going to play crabs to work with their Diablos and all that stuff because they're just generally good in the meta right now. So I think locations have a really hard time breaking through that point, especially the Amethyst locations. Yeah.
Interesting. So his list is a little different. He was playing a Maui's Hook for a little while. That's gone. Currently looks like 9 1-drops, 2 of which are Olaf. I do like 2 Olaf. With Crab. I think he had dropped the crabs for Charlie's 10K. So I do like to see the Olaf with the crab. That's just an anti-aggro action there. And then playing the extra Dragonfire has been pretty normal for set 5. I think this the first time we've seen him down to 3 Flynn, though, in set 6. I want to say yes.
I think that's fair, honestly. Like, Flynn's kind of a necessary evil because if you don't play him, the Ruby Sapphire matchups is really bad. But he just doesn't do a lot into really any other deck. I guess
No, I like
Blurple's
it. It makes
okay,
sense. I see a lot of people
but it's
cutting
not a real
Flynn, and
deck.
I just does not sit well with me at all because he just wins games. But I can definitely see going towards 3.
Yeah, but I think he only really just wins games against Ruby Sapphire. Like, what other deck does Flynn
We
just run
take
away
that.
with?
Well, I mean, just
Sure,
like,
you have
yeah,
to.
Blurple, it will kill Blurple. You know, my deck sucks.
Mhm.
We'll say that again. It like, but just that threat of like, I play this, now you have to play your Calhoun instead of your fucking whatever. And then I play Sisu, and like it just like every game you played, it's unless it gets Storm Ragered, it's pretty good for the most part.
Yeah,
Like
I think it's
Gaston Reckless is never that good, you know.
yeah. I think the 3x that just checks it immediately, or even like a one cost. Like the one cost Moana has seen an uptick in play because it's just a one cost card they
Yeah,
can play and not have to pay the Flynn tax.
for sure, for sure. All right. So if you're going to be at Continentals, feel free to come up and say hi, and feel free to drop a comment box on whatever stream you're watching to make fun of Hal Brady while he is doing the card viewer. If you're there, come say hi, man. Come get a hug, or not. Either way is cool with me. For Beardcana, I'm Sammy B, and we'll catch you guys next time. Peace. Bye bye.